Okay, we are going to start some work with the passports here on Berlin. So I kind of want to start off just a general picture of Europe, and of course here you can see Germany, and I'm going to zoom into Berlin, just so you can get a chance to see some of the things going on here. As we get into it, you can see there's a little bit of an outline of the city. As we go into the city each day, I am going to start off by focusing on this green area right here, which is called the Tiergarten. And so you can always use that as a reference point. So here's the Tiergarten. It's a giant park in the middle of the city, kind of like Central Park in New York. And right at the edge there, you'll see is the Brandenburg Gate. So I'm going to click on that. And here's a picture. It's an okay picture there. A lot of you guys have been going to the Brandenburg Gate for your location. And it's probably the most recognizable location in Berlin. You can see a pretty good picture of it right there. And like I said, we're going to use that as a basis for finding our other things. So most of you have gone to the same general places. One of the places that you've gone to is right next to the Brandenburg Gate, which is the Reichstaggebäude. And that's an important building. You can see what it looks like today. You'll see that there's this glass dome on top. Now, if you go into your history classes, you may have learned about the Reichstaggebäude, the Reichstag building, because in World War II, prior to World War II, what had happened was the Nazis were just coming to power, and Hitler wanted to have an event that made it so that people would get upset. So it was reported that a French Jew set fire to the Reichstaggebäude. Now, that's not true. It was the Nazis that set fire to the Reichstaggebäude, and they burned it. Can you imagine what would happen if someone burned the Capitol building here in the United States? Well, people would get really upset. And so Hitler used that as a motivator to make it so that he could pass laws banning communists and Jews. So I misspoke. It wasn't a French Jew. It was a French communist that set fire to it. So the first thing that he did is he made it illegal to be a communist. So that building was heavily damaged. And then after the wall fell in 1989, they did a big they redid the building quite a bit, and that's when they put that glass dome on top. The glass dome is really cool, and I'll show you that here another day. But so just so you can get reference, here's the Brandenburg. Here's the Tiergarten, and then here's the Brandenburg Tor, and then here is the Reichstaggebäude. One person kind of went forward a little bit, and that's totally fine. And instead of going to one of the 5 places I selected, they went to this right here. This is the Siegessäule, and called the Victory Column. And I'll get you a better picture of this. But if you keep your eyes open, they do a lot of protests and things like that at the Siegessäule. Now, they're not going to do them right now because the German government, Angela Merkel, who works in the Reichstaggebäude, has issued that you have to be, that groups of 2 is the maximum you can have in public. So you're not going to see any protests today. But I know when, for example, when President Obama was running for president, they actually gathered here, not as a protest, but to show support. They were big fans of Obama in Germany. So right here, just so you can see it, here's the Siegessäule, and then here is the Brandenburg Gate, and here is the Reichstaggebäude. A lot of you guys have been going to Checkpoint Charlie, so that is right here. So just a little bit of information with that. The wall came right through here. Okay, right here. So the Brandenburg Gate was actually, when you had the wall, there were two walls with a no man's land in between. And the Brandenburg Gate was in between the two walls in the no man's land. And then the wall came down here. And then it took a turn to the east. And then we should be able to see Checkpoint Charlie right down here. Here's where that was. So Charlie, if you think about it, like you have like Alpha, Beta, Charlie, Delta. So this was Checkpoint Charlie, and it was where the American sector, which was basically that's not what you want. Sorry. The American sector was down here, and then the Soviet sector was up here, and so this was the checkpoint to go between those two things. So in this picture here, you can see what it looks like now. You can see that there's well, you can't see it at all because I moved it. You can see that there is a museum that says Mauer on the side, and then there's a guard tower that's there in the middle, and that is the actual guard tower that was in between. You can see even there's a tour bus back there too. So the museum house at Checkpoint Charlie is really cool because it shows all kinds of escape attempts of people trying to get across the wall. It is a really good museum. If you go to Berlin, it's a must see. It would be kind of like if you went to Washington D.C. and didn't go to the Lincoln Memorial. It's pretty important. So all right, so that is right here. So Brandenburg Gate, Reichstagsgebäude, Tierpark, Checkpoint Charlie. One of the things that was in West Germany is this church, and I'll show you some pictures of it another day if I can, but it's the Kaiser Wilhelm Church, and this was a massive cathedral that it's on the west side of Germany, and it was bombed in World War II by us, rightfully so, and they decided they were going to leave the church as is after World War II, and then right behind it is another church that's much more modern, and you can see how tall the other steeples were. So it's a pretty important landmark, and we'll be visiting that again often. And then the other place that you guys have been going to is in East Germany. So this was the former communist side. So here at the Brandenburg Gate, we're going to follow the street, which is called Unter den Linden. And we're going to follow right up here to the Fernsehturm. And you've probably seen pictures of this in my classroom before. It's got a big ball at the top. And this is the Fernsehturm, the TV tower at Alexanderplatz. And the whole idea was back in the day, you didn't have digital. You had TVs were by signal. And so way at the top of that tower, you would have all kinds of signals that would go out. And it's a big ball. And what's really cool is that at the top of the ball, you can also go and there's a rotating restaurant that you can do up at the top of it, and it's really cool. So, and that's at Alexanderplatz. I saw a really cool picture from Alexanderplatz that Anna Maria actually posted, and it was of the world clock, which is, I can't show it on here, I don't think, unless I get really close. Oh, there it is. It's this clock right here where you can see the ball in the background there. Where you see, like it says 15, 16, 17, 18, so that's the hours. And then above it are the cities, that's the hour of what time it is in that city. So if it said New York at 16, then that would mean that in New York City it's 4 p.m. Kind of a cool thing. That's the first little tour of Berlin, and I hope you've enjoyed it and could follow it along. I'm having a little trouble with Google Earth in my computer at the moment because it keeps freezing up, so I'm going to keep working on that on my end. Keep sending me your pictures of your different places, and have a great day.